When Update 1.0 launched in Satisfactory, I made a video about the new teleportation system. However, for a while now, I've wanted to remake that video since I feel like I missed some very important details, and I could also make it a lot better based off community feedback. So today we'll be going over all of the teleportation basics, how to unlock it, what it requires, as well as my Singularity cell recipe, which I promise will make sense and links back to today's video. And then I'll show you how to actually teleport. We'll then end off with my final thoughts and concerns, starting with the basics. So the teleporters, otherwise known as portals, are unlocked in the hub at tier 9 of phase 5. This isn't just a late game item, it's a very late game item, and I talk about the problems of this towards the end of today's video. In this hub upgrade, we have 3 items that we need: the main portal, the satellite portal, and the Singularity cell. Don't worry too much about the ballistic warp drive, however, since this isn't relevant to today's upload. To unlock the spatial energy regulation tab in the hub, you are going to need 100 superposition oscillators, 250 turbo motors, 500 radio control units, and lastly 1000 SAM fluctuators. By this stage of the game, I recommend fully automating all of these items. You might have recently just unlocked the superposition oscillators, but I still do recommend fully automating them for the later space elevator parts. After you've unlocked your portals, they'll be located over in your transport tab, where you might need to scroll down a little bit to be able to actually see it. But how much are these portals to actually build? Well, the main portal variant actually changes very slightly from the satellite variants, so here's how you make the main portal, and by the way, both of these will end up consuming 250 megawatts worth of power. So the ingredients for the main portal is 5 turbo motors, 10 radio control units, 15 superposition oscillators, 25 SAM fluctuators, and 50 fixite trigons. That's the reason as to why I said you should be automating all of these items already, because you are going to be needing quite a lot of them, as well as the fixite trigons, which aren't really that difficult to automate. Now moving on to the satellite portal, and you might notice these ingredients are rather similar. 5 radio control units, 10 superposition oscillators, 25 SAM fluctuators, and 25 fixite trigons. And of course, when we compare the two portals, we can very clearly see they both consume the same amount of power. That's fantastic, but ingredients wise, things are a little bit different. Firstly, over there with that main portal, we are consuming turbo motors, whereas with the satellite, we are not. We also need an extra 5 radio control units, 5 superposition oscillators, and the exact same amount of SAM fluctuators, except that the main portal consumes an additional 25 fixite trigons. That's the main difference here between these two portals, in regards of ingredients at least. So what are the jobs of these portals? Well, starting with the satellite variant, this is designed to be placed anywhere in your world, no matter how high, low, far or wide you would wish to place them. Because they're cheaper to construct, I recommend, if you've got the resources, to put a satellite portal in all your main factories or parts of the map you frequently travel to. However, you can only have one link between a satellite portal and a main portal, meaning that if you have 10 satellite portals, you're then going to need 10 main portals. Personally, I recommend constructing something like a main portal hub, where essentially you can have a nice collection of your main portals all in one location, so that eventually when you do enter your satellite portal, which then transports you into your main portal room, you can very easily maneuver from one portal to another, so you can easily traverse the world. But speaking about the main portals, let's talk a little bit more about that. Main portals practically serve the same purpose as the satellite portal, but with one main difference. They require Singularity cells, which we'll be going over in just a minute, but that's the reason as to why I recommend having all of your main portals in one location, since it's a lot easier to feed the Singularity cells into one main portal room, rather than having 10 or 12 or 15 main portals all over your world and having to use drones or vehicles to then transport your Singularity cells. So again, this does make a lot of sense logistically, time-saving wise, and also practicality. And that right there is essentially the basics of the portals, but there's still some key knowledge that we need to know. Firstly, these portals can be nudged horizontally since their introduction in Update 1.0, and now they can be nudged vertically since Update 1.1 on Experimental. If you really wanted to, by the way, you can also snap a sign to the front of the portal, which honestly looks pretty nice. And you can also name your portals too. Another major point to note is that each main portal consumes 2 Singularity cells per minute. This is very different from something like the Alien Power Augmenter, which again I've got a fully in-depth video talking about, where essentially you can opt to produce an alien power matrix, which essentially boosts the alien power augmenter's performance. Unfortunately though, here you need to produce a singularity cell, and I've mentioned these items quite a lot. So what exactly is a singularity cell, and how easy is that to produce? Well, I've already released a fully in-depth video talking about that again, but I very quickly want to go over it today since it plays quite a crucial role in today's video. And this is our singularity cell recipe, where we are making 10 singularity cells per minute. This is enough to power 5 of your main portals, and to make this you are going to need 1 nuclear pasta per minute, which takes up pretty much the bulk of this recipe over here. We then need our 20 dark matter crystals, our 100 iron plates, and 200 concrete. And I suppose this is a pretty good place to start. I'm using wet concrete and pure iron ingots, and I love these two recipes. It does use water, but it saves me on an absolute ton of resources. When it comes to our dark matter crystals though, we are using the dark matter residue and time crystal recipe. But when it comes to the dark matter residue, you'll be producing this as a byproduct from quite a few other items in the game already by this stage, so feel free to always just reuse that dark matter residue as a byproduct into this recipe, because it then saves you on the 100 sandwich, which of course is great. When it comes to our time crystals, I'm using something here called the pink diamond recipe, which essentially consumes quartz crystals and coal rather than just coal. This saves me on an absolute ton of coal, but it does use a little bit of raw quartz, but it is what it is. Now let's move on to our nuclear pasta, which takes up all of this part of the recipe over here. So essentially the singularity cell is just the nuclear pasta with a couple other things sprinkled on top. But to make our 1 nuclear pasta per minute, we're going to need 1 pressure conversion cube and 200 copper powder. To make our 200 copper powder, you're going to need 1200 copper ingots, which then requires 480 copper ore and 320 water if you choose to use the pure copper ingots recipe. If you don't want to do that, it then means that you're going to need 1200 copper ore, which is obviously quite a lot, so this is a pretty good lifesaver when it comes to trying to save resources, especially for copper powder. Now in theory for our pressure conversion cubes, we only need 2 items here, despite those 2 items then requiring dozens more items themselves. But we are going to need fused modular frames, and lastly, 2 radio control units per minute. And to make our radio control units, I've gone with quartz crystals and the high-speed connector, as well as the heatsink recipe. And then lastly, to make our fused modular frames, I've gone with the heavy modular frame recipe, which I love, as a lot of you guys know by now, aluminium casing, and nitrogen gas. And here's all the resources required, machines required, and total power required down there as well. But again, for a further analysis, feel free to check out that singularity cell video. This was just a very quick summary. So now that we understand everything to do with the portals, it's time we actually get onto the teleporting part of today's video, where I'm going to be teleporting from here all the way to here, just for now, then we'll get onto a slightly bigger example a bit later on. But first, let's understand the basics. I'm going to go up to my main portal itself, press E to interact, and then make sure that you select the linked portal. Again, don't forget to name your portals, it makes life a lot easier. For example, I'm now going to zoom in, and to know exactly what satellite portal I'm actually going to link it to, all I've got to do is look for the name. Satellites from the sphere coast to the spire coast. Well, sphere, I call it either way if I'm honest. But there we go, just link it up just like that, select link, perfect, and then there you go. What you'll be witnessing right now towards the left side of your screen is essentially the portal itself activating and heating up. Then when this is fully charged and fully done, you can then teleport. And bear in mind that this will end up consuming singularity cells, so do make sure you've got a few ready for this process. And just like that, there we go, our main portal is now opened up, and hopefully when I turn around, we should see this exact image on the portal behind us. Lovely, would you look at that? All we've got to do now is just walk straight through, and there you go. Now, even though this is extremely quick to do, it literally takes less than half a second for me to go from one portal to the other. It's because I'm actually really close to the main portal itself. If the main portal was here, yet for example, the satellite portal was somewhere towards the blue crater, towards the very south of the map, this process would take a bit longer, and I think now is a pretty good time to demonstrate that. This portal right here is set up to go to the Dune Desert. So again, let's open up the main portal, let's select the linked portal, and I'm going to plop this one over here, then make sure again they are connected. Let's also wait now for the portal to heat up. By the way, the process of this thing actually heating up and opening up that portal is really, really cool. And there we go. Now when we walk through it, as you can see, it's going to take a little bit longer. It's even going to stutter, but wow, just like that, we are through to the other side. It might be a bit laggy, especially if you're like me and your PC isn't really that good, and if you've got a massive factory that you are trying to teleport to. But regardless, this does work, and again, do expect it to lag a little bit, but it is what it is. So we've talked about the portal's basics, as well as some key facts about it, and the Singularity cell recipe, as well as, of course, that teleporting gameplay. So I think it's about time for my opinions and final thoughts about the portals themselves, since I've now got a pretty good chance to experience them in the game. Overall, I think they're great, however, they are rather expensive, which is a bit of a shame, but personally my biggest concern is that they are unlocked way too far into the late game, because by the time you've unlocked these portals, you've essentially finished the game. Maybe you're making your very final space elevator parts, but by that stage you've already got hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into your world, and again, you're in that closing chapter, the final couple % of that actual save. So I feel like it's a bit of a waste to have such an incredible feature locked so late in the game. Like I showed when I was using the portal connecting the Spire Coast to the Dune Desert, this can be a bit of a struggle if you guys have got lower end PCs or consoles, because again, this game's going to come out to console very soon, hopefully. Or of course, if you just got a massive save, which again, by this stage of the game, you are most likely going to have quite a large factory or multiple factories placed down in the world, so your PC might struggle with this. The last thing I'll say is, why not use a hypertube cannon? It's cheaper, it's unlocked towards the very start of the game, well, in comparison to the portals at least, it's not very start, but it's towards the start of the game. They're very cheap, like I mentioned. Power-wise, they are a lot cheaper. Of course, when you go into the portal itself, and this is something I don't think I've mentioned, it consumes an additional 1000 megawatts worth of power on top of what you're already using in your world, so do be cautious of that, where again, with the hypertube cannon, it doesn't consume any extra power when you're using it, so that's another fantastic benefit of the hypertube cannon. But the satellite, like I mentioned at the very start of my opinion, does look great. I love the way it looks. I think the way it's been designed is fantastic, but again, like I was saying, is it really worth it? Personally, I'll be sticking with the hypertube cannons, especially since, again, portals are unlocked way too late in the game. But regardless, do let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Have you made it? Do you like it? Is it too expensive? And what would you change about it if you had the ability to? I hope that today's video was better than my last portal video. Like I've mentioned a few times in my live streams and my other videos, I am generally trying to make the quality of the content released on this channel better than before, so hopefully this is a step in the right direction, but do let me know in the comments down below. Without further ado, thank you very much for watching, have an amazing rest of your day, and remember, Godspeed.